Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this video, we're gonna do a quick review on a kind of important concept. It's called vectorizations. Sometimes it's also called multiple data input or overloading of data. Some people just call it stuff some data into the nodes. Yeah, when working in nodes, like when you're using animation nodes or Spreadshop, sometimes you realize that for the data input you can plug in multiple data, not just a single value, but you can use multiple values, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the nodes itself. But for most cases, usually it will work. And then I was actually got inspired by this video tutorial for Notebox. Notebox is another open source app that's using nodes and noodles, kind of connecting the nodes to generate. It's good for doing generative art or data visualization. And there's this tutorial by Randolph Jones on YouTube that talks kind of the foundation concept on notebooks, and also, but this talks a lot about the very useful concepts. I definitely recommend these videos for you to have a look. Just maybe search for Randolph Jones, and then actually I was gonna I like this tutorial so much that I want to do each one of them separately for Spreadshop, or maybe not exactly the same, because notebooks is not 100% the same like Spreadshop, but this should be useful for beginners, even for intermediate users. Basically, his tutorial goes through the foundations of multiple data, or when you're dealing with lists of data, and how you can easily generate multiple objects if you are using multiple data. And then it goes through mostly about data patterns like CSV, JSON, and XML, all those, and then how you can export it as graphics. I think maybe the tutorial itself is not complete. Maybe this is for his own class. But anyway, let's jump into Spreadshop. So this is gonna be just improvisations. It's a foundation thing. You probably already understand most of it. So let's get started. Vectorization 001. Create a new. Let's use either the circle or n-gon before I forgot. Let's see. Let's use the circle for now. Viewer draw. In Spreadshop, you know that I use viewer draw very often. This is kind of a useful node to do like a preview of your final result before you are using something like bmesh mk2 maybe to generate actual mesh data. So I like using viewer draw from time to time, because you can just chuck any kind of data and see if you can output it as mesh using this. For circle, for example, by default it gives you circle, whether it's just a circle with edges or polygon. There are polygon mesh data, and you have radius control, vertices, degrees, whatnot. Normally you leave the degrees alone unless you want to have like a pi kind of look. Okay, what is vectorization? So basically, if you provide multiple data into this guy, you can basically generate multiple outputs. Let's say if we just use things like float range float, in the notebooks, they call it samples. So kind of a samples nodes, I think, generate data that looks like a range float or range integer. And it's a good idea if you can and want to visualize it. You can use viewer text and kind of put this in. Look at the data. If it's green color, that means a single value data. So if you plug it in and click view, you can see the data here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because it's the nodes specific. In the attributes here, it says start from 0, step of 1, stop at 10. Okay, that's pretty obvious. So if you plug the output of these nodes into the circle radius, you're gonna get exactly what it is. Bunch of circles, start, stop. You can, instead of using range, you can also use count, and let's say you want 5 of them. Start from 0 with a step of 1 or step of 2. The number will, this multiple number goes into the circle node, and then circle nodes understand, okay, this is you're stuffing multiple numbers, and so I'm gonna generate multiple output. And you can see here it says 5, so there are 5 different data coming in. And with this 5 stream of data, like I also mentioned at some point that you can, it's kind of like if you have a single fountain and you kind of splitting the data into multiple data using list split, for example. Now you can actually deal with each stream, and whether you want to split it again and you want to process it separately, you can do that. It's not an easy concept, but it's you kind of learn that over time. So circle, this one will have, of course, each of the circle will have 10 different, actually 10 vertices for each circle. But if you provide multiple data for the vertices, you will get exactly that number. So if for this guy we specify 0, 1, 5, start from 3, so the first one will have 3 vertices. Step 1, count 5. Start from 0. So the radius, the first one must be like have a 0 radius at the moment. Maybe it should start at 2. Start at 1. For the radius, actually it's better if you are using range float probably. So the value can be kind of like floating value instead of integer. So currently it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the radius. You can have 5 data that looks like more like this guy, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. If I turn on auto update in the viewer text, I can kind of give a fractional value, and then it doesn't mind, it will transfer to the circle like that. Currently they are on top of each other because we didn't specify anything to the circle position. Okay, here's the thing about Spreadshop. The nodes itself by default is kind of placed on a 0, 0, 0. Any kind of most of the generator here will place the objects at 0, 0, 0 unless you specify it in the matrix here, the transform. So if you want to place the objects on the certain place, certain location with certain scale and certain rotations, you use the matrix in here. So the matrix, that's the transform, and so by default you get nothing. It's just seems like everything just collapsed into itself. But if you provide a value like a random vector, itself, this is one node that able to generate a multiple output. Let's say you want 5. Because we have 5 number for the radius and 5 numbers for the vertices. We want 5 numbers for the location. Okay, random locations like that. Probably, yeah, that's really cool. And you know, with circle, you can either output a shape that's like a polygon like this, or you can also use the edges if you just want the lines. So if I scale this everything, scale the random value down to 0, we place everything on the center once again, and we have these variations. And the cool thing about this is we can use our own, like we can go back and change any of this value anytime as we want. See, like changing the step, changing the count, but the count should be the same for each one of these, and it should work properly. So maybe we don't need to change the number of vertices. They can be like 3, so like triangles. Okay, that's the start and the stop. Maybe we want to rotate this guy per generations. We want to rotate. So how do we do that? Just use the angle. So for the rotation itself, we use we can actually only just use a single value. Just say vector xyz and specify the rotations in 0, 0, 1, which is a z-axis. You see the z-axis here? That's the axis you want to work on, and the angle can be another range float. Like that. And the angle can be the step. I think the step should be good. So for each generations, rotate it by 10 degrees or 30 degrees. Start at 0, count, conform to that. So now you know you get this design. Start and stop. We have control still with the radius. Yeah, that's really powerful concept, as you can see. With the location, instead of random vector, perhaps you want to use your own number range, you can do that. Again, we're gonna use range float, plug into the z-axis, range, start stop. I think in this case start stop should be good. Start and stop, maybe something like that. Count should be the same as this guy, 40 maybe, and you can easily generate this kind of artwork. That's a very powerful. The more you learn Sverchok, the more you find this is actually really powerful. This is still only the basics. If you look at the YouTube video tutorials on the Notebox app, just now the one I showed it to you, That's only touching like a super basic one, but also you'll find it's really powerful. um, what else? Just now I use this range float quite often, but you also remember you can generate your own list. mm, let's say list float, or float, range float. I hardly use these nodes, but actually useful for beginners. List, not list main number, range integer, list input, list input. Okay, this node is actually useful. I will use the stethoscope for this one. Stethoscope is also a quick way to look at the data. So that's a list input. By default, list length equal 1. Maybe you want 5 data. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And for the data, you can specify this one. The first data should be random number 9, 15, whatever data you can pipe it in. The output is going to be this list, which is multiple data again that you can stuff into things like circle. Let's say we go back to 10 of this guy. Okay, just 10 circles. I'm gonna reduce this, just something like that. I'll actually just make it 5. And we can plug this into the vertices, stuff it, and we get circle with a 9 vertices, 15, 28, 15, 13, and we can still change it as we please. With the data, sometimes we actually provide data that's the node might not happy with. Say we specify, okay, 2 vertices. How can you create a circle using just 2 vertices? It doesn't work, right? So it stops. Stop at 3 points there. So lots of nodes in Spreadchalk has that kind of error prevention or catenary measurement. So it will do the right thing. So if it doesn't like it, it will give like a red error message. So you can't use that kind of data. Let's say you are using like a vector in, and you just plug in into the vertices. It doesn't like it. Okay, this is like a Spreadchalk complaining about the data. Hey, you're plugging in this, but you will say that, hey, but vector is 3 data, right? Well, vector it is a 3 a data that has 3 values, but these and these are not the same. Let's say we are using 3 data, 9, 6, 2, 5. These two are not the same. You see the bracket, the double bracket. Let's say you're ignoring this double bracket and just look at the data 9, 6, 2, 5. This one actually a single value with 3 data. You can separate that using vector out. So now this become a data that you can pipe in, but it's only a single value. What if you want like a multiple data value? What do? It's you can perhaps list split it, or let me think. List split, join zip, list delete levels probably. I think list split 1 should be simpler. So let's tidy up this thing a little bit. So currently our data looks like this. Is this actually a single value? It's a vector value. Okay, we want to split it. Let's use the list split and let's have a look. Unwrap level 2, level 1. This one might actually works. Yeah, this might actually works. This one. We can try plugging it into the circle. Oh, it still doesn't like it. Might need to use list join or something, or split. Please plug into that guy. Let's check out list delete level. One. Okay, this one list delete level actually does the job for us. And then if you really want to use the vector value, this actually works. 3 data. Now it's see. This guy compared to this guy, it's a different type of data. Spreadchalk has multiple levels of data, kind of a, what do they call it? List data wrapping. They call it the just like the Matryoshka doll, the Russian doll toys, where you have like the big dolls and then you can split it out and you have inside of that dolls you can open up and you have smaller dolls and you can split again into smaller data. So yes, Spreadchalk can do that. And then if you imagine the data x, y, z, this x, y, z can be another list of data. So yeah, it's like multiple levels. This is also another level of complexity that you can deal with in Spreadchalk. But normally, a simple list of data like this, just a single value, but you have like multiple. This is what you like to deal with if you are just beginning using Spreadchalk. And you're gonna deal whether you're using integer data, which is like integer is a full number. You don't have a zero decimal value. Float value is looking like this. And let's try stuffing this into the radius. Yep. This is the first circle. That's the second one, third one. Yes, any value you put in the list, it will work. Okay. This is another way you can stuff multiple data into the nodes. Simple but very important. So this normally you don't use a vector value for this. Okay, this is kind of a silly example, but this is showing this concept, Matryoshka concept. All right, let's delete this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Delete. So we have how many? 7 data for the radius. Let's plug this into, for the vertices we want. It's better if you provide integer because you cannot have fractional value, but Spreadchalk will try to convert the value anyway. So it's better to provide a good data for whatever you're doing here, like vertices, start at 3, step 1. Okay, so that's controlling the radius, etc. I think there is one more that I think random number generator. That's also another way you can generate multiple data, but the actually random number generator. Let's say one useful thing is if you want to repeat the data. Let's say you want to have data just output like a 333 or things like that. Let's say you have like a single value here, number 3, you plug in, okay, you have only single value. You can use list repeater, just repeat the number. Let's say 10 times 3 3 3 3 3. Although the data currently is doesn't look like Spreadshop friendly. This one might be okay. Might need to unwrap it. Okay, this is actually better. You see, we have all kind of possibilities here. List repeater actually pretty good to display all kind of different data that Spreadshop will take. So this is a good one. This is the kind of the normal basic one. You see the double square bracket, and then value 10 times. This one is actually different. This guy, maybe Spreadshop doesn't like it too much. This is probably better. If you have this, will still work, I think. But that's you can see another bracket in it. It's maybe not a very good data to use. And this one also another different one, depending on the level. But I guess this one is good. Plug this into the vertices. Now we have number 3. But of course we don't need to repeat it because Spreadshop is sometimes smart enough. Okay, if you just specify 3, it will apply it for every generation. So that's gonna be the radius. What else? I think one more thing. Oh yeah, random number generator. Instead of using a single value and list repeater, you can use random number generator and just give the same value. It will actually generate that data. You see, it is 3 integer low, integer height 3, and then you get this value. If you give it a different value, of course, it's gonna generate random value. I like this node a lot. This is a very useful. So now you see, this is a random number of vertices for each circle. And the cool thing about Spreadshop and all kind of node-based, any good node-based system allows you to change this node. You have this generator nodes, but if you, let's say you don't want to use circle, if you want to use n-gon, you just replace the circle with n-gon. So say for the radius, you plug the radius, and the number of sides maybe just 4, you get a square, and then vertices, n-gon and circle is kind of almost similar. So you will get different output like that. Of course, this node has different kind of possibilities, different attributes you can play around with. Very interesting. So what else can we use? Line, plane, n-gon, box. Box will give you 3D. Rounded box is actually really nice one. You don't get this normally. This doesn't work right away. You need to provide a vector size. Vector in. Just plug that in and you get your rounded box, which currently looking like a sphere. Okay, that's the one I like. Let's give it a random radius. That guy. And then place it on different location. Let's see. Let's do that. I wonder if the radius actually works. So I have a feeling that the radius, in this case, the radius is not what you want. The radius is like a single value that doesn't, this one doesn't take multiple data, okay? But this vector size might actually takes multiple data. So if I use random vector mk2, oh, this one doesn't give you that option either. So maybe rounded box doesn't take multiple data, which is pretty weird. Oh, actually it does. Oh, okay, it does take multiple data. What is this then? 7. If I specify a single data and randomize this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, doesn't work. But if you plug this guy in, yeah, what is this vector size? Huh, weird. But that's yeah. If you're using a node like rounded box that's outputting a 3D mesh data, you get this kind of look, this kind of possibility. So if this is nice, list input is nice node. You use it time to time. If you just you know exactly you only need 7 lists of data. You can have like 100, but when it goes beyond 10 or 20, if the number get bigger, you start to use things like random number generator here. So you can just specify low and high and then generate, let the node generate it for you. So this is, we start from like a basic concept, and we by using all these different nodes that generates multiple output of data, and you stuff it into generator nodes like this, you get quite a complex design. Because yeah, that's basically the power of Squarechalk, and you can just use random vector like that. And you have how many? 32. If you just plug this into this guy, we have a bunch of randomly sized rounded box. Okay, so this is a Fura draw, and this is for if you want to bake it, it's become a real object that you can render. Okay, I guess that's pretty much it. We did touch a little bit about transform matrix. This one looks like we have 26 of data, so I think I need to make sure I use, see this number 32, 32, 32. Now it's correct. Everything is each data has its own value. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much it for this live noding. So yeah, hopefully this is clear. If you're like beginner starting wanted to use Spreadshop for your work, yeah, just hopefully this is useful. Thanks again for tuning in to Blender Sushi live coding. I guess I'll see you in the next video. If you have any question or suggestion, you can leave it down below. Thank you. Bye.